Okay, let's get started. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm really thrilled to host this event, bringing together two groups of people that I care a lot about and that are partners. We're going to start with Fred Roberts. He's going to give an overview of DIMACS, what DIMACS is. Then I'm going to talk for a few minutes about MSR New York and some parallels between DIMACS and MSR New York. And then we're very thrilled to have Christos Papadimitriou speaking, and he'll come after I speak. And I'll introduce Christos at that time. Now I'll introduce Fred. Fred is both the Emeritus Director and the Interim Director of DIMACS. He's a distinguished professor of mathematics at Rutgers. He's written almost 200 papers and five books. And so we're very happy to have Fred start out the day telling us an overview of what DIMACS is, and then we'll go from there. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Dave. So welcome on behalf of DIMACS, and I assume that was welcome on behalf of Microsoft Research. So nice crowd. Just a little bit about the history of mixers. So when we first started DIMACS, we had a variety of people who kind of knew each other but didn't know each other that well. And we felt it was important to figure out what everyone was interested in, what everyone was doing. And so we decided to do a mixer. And we did about 3 or 4 of them in the first year, rotating from Bell Labs to Belcour to Princeton and so on. And so we created the tradition of a mixer. After a while, we didn't feel a mixer was necessary. So there has been a long hiatus since we had mixers. We resurrected this idea last spring, and I think it was very successful. So here we go again. And the real goal is to mix. So you're expected to meet somebody you didn't know. We will test you later on who you met. But really, that is the idea. Just get some idea of what's going on at both places and get some idea of how you might get involved. We would love to have you involved. And other than that, we'll just have a good time and hear a great talk. So not this one, Christos's talk. So a little bit about DIMACS. So DIMACS was founded, believe it or not, 30 years ago as an NSF Science and Technology Center. We had it was a nationwide competition, and we were very proud to be among the first 11 NSF STCs. We started smaller. We had 4 partner institutions then, and we are now up to 14, including Microsoft. We were founded as the Center for Discrete Mathematics and Theoretical Computer Science. I think that's actually a misnomer nowadays, and there's certainly a discussion about just using the name DIMACS without saying what it stands for. DIMACS has certainly expanded beyond discrete mathematics into continuous mathematics. It's expanded into various kinds of application areas, but still, this is our roots, and it's hard to give up on the name that we originally started with. So I know many of you have been to the headquarters at Rutgers. We actually have a staff there, and that's where the management is. We have 350 members. It's not totally clear to most members what membership means. They are spread over the 14 partner institutions, plus quite a few people remain members after they leave one of the partner institutions. As I go through some of the activities, I think the main message is whether you're a member or not, we hope you'll get involved one way or the other. So this is kind of a busy slide. It lists all the different types of things that DIMACS does, and I'm going to actually go through most of them with an example or two. I hate to say this, I have 28 slides. Dave knows how to do this better. He has 7. So the signature program at DIMACS is called a special focus. It used to be when we started, we had a special year. It went for a year. We geared up for it. We ran 4 or 5 workshops, had a bunch of visitors. And when we were done, we went to another topic. That's not the model anymore. The model now is multiple year special focus programs and multiple special focus programs going on at the same time, because not everybody's interested in the same one. They still include workshops and smaller working groups. It's much harder to raise money for long-term visitors than it used to be, but we still try to do that, and we still try to have some tutorials and seminars and things of that sort. We're always looking for ideas for special focus programs. So these are some of the things that are current. 3 of them are joint with the Simons Institute at Berkeley, which means part of it is run there and part of it is run here. We have a brand new one that Dave is going to talk more about later, because he actually played a critical role in helping us get funding for this from NSF. So that one is just kicking off. And we don't really know yet how we're going to kick it off. Just a selection of some of the ones that have ended, so you get some idea of the variety, ranging all the way from what we call mathematics of planet Earth, which we hope to continue because we didn't solve all the problems of the planet yet, to energy, to discrete random systems, to computational biology, to computational epidemiology, but also more theoretical things like algorithmic decision theory and so on. So again, your ideas are the critical part, and one of the major goals of a mixer is to generate ideas and discussion about what kinds of special focus programs you'd like to see. We are aiming for something on socially responsible algorithms. We have a DIMACS workshop on that topic, the second such workshop. It's going to be in Paris in December. We are not providing funding for that, but if anybody wants to come, happy to include you. We're also getting more and more into robotics and the theoretical foundations of robotics, and that's another topic we're talking about. So further ideas are welcomed. So I should mention one of the things that DIMACS has maybe very well known for is an implementation challenge. Unfortunately, these were the invention of David Johnson, and we lost him too early. We're doing another implementation challenge next fall on vehicle routing problems. And these things work by having some test problems and some test data sets and instances, and then we have people try to approach them in their own way, and we try to gather people to discuss their different approaches, their different algorithmic approaches, and see if we can get an exchange of ideas. In the past, some of these have led to books. If you look at the DIMACS book series, you'll see some of the ones that we've done before. So let me turn a little bit to some educational stuff. When we got the STC award, Science and Technology Center award, education was a key component of what the Science and Technology Centers do. And this is still a major piece of what DIMACS does. It's another way we hope that you'll be interested in getting involved. We've done a lot of curriculum development at the interface between biology and mathematics in the high schools, computational thinking, sustainability. And each of them we've produced modules that can be used in classrooms and have been used in classrooms around the country. We've also got a new professional development online program. We are participating with the intelligence community on the Intelligence Community Center of Academic Excellence. And we've started to explore responsible computer science and how we fix the introductory computer science courses so that thinking about responsibility when you design algorithms is not afterthought, but it goes from the beginning. We run a large undergraduate research program every summer. We have about 35 students from around the country, and also from our partner DIMACS Center, which is DIMACS in Czech, every summer. And that is one-on-one research with a mentor. We're always looking for mentors, and it's a great program. We also run something called Reconnect. Early on, we realized that a large percentage of people who get a PhD never do research again. And most of them are either working in industry or they go into academics, but they're mostly doing teaching. And so Reconnect aims to reconnect such people, especially the ones in academics, to some current research topic. But they're not passive listeners. The goal is to get them involved in some activity. Maybe that activity is simply figuring out how to present the research topic to a classroom and writing one of those modules that can be used, and so on and so forth. We've had a lot of reconnects in the past few years, ranging from topics from cryptography down to social networks. Topic for this next Reconnect is not yet determined. We rotate these at various places. It's going to be in Providence in June is when we usually have them. So if you're interested in coming up with a topic, see Midge. Another thing we've done a lot of is try to get women involved in STEM disciplines. We have something called the Douglas DIMACS Computing Corps. Douglas is our residential college for women at Rutgers. And we have the students there carrying out different computing activities. This includes outreach to middle schools and so on. We also have a living learning community for women at Douglas. We present co-curricular programs. They live together. The students are interested in computer science. That's been very successful. And what we did this year was we asked the chancellor at Rutgers for some seed money to develop an initiative on women in computer science. And luckily he came up with $700,000 so we can do something fairly substantial. What we're going to do, and we're just really starting this, is figure out how to revise introductory computer science courses in such a way that the topics might appeal more to women and also keep them engaged. That will require some research as well, and research about what it is that appeals to women and what turns them away is going to be a piece of this. It will also include expanding the living learning community, outreach to middle and high schools, and we don't want to do this in isolation. There are other schools that have done this fairly well, especially some of our Big Ten university partners and others. So a new initiative. I'd love to get anybody who's interested in that topic to let us know what we might do. We do have a Homeland Security Center called Cicada. That was founded as a University Center of Excellence of the Department of Homeland Security. We've been funded by DHS for such centers of excellence for 11 years. Cicada works on multidisciplinary research mostly, so it's quite different from the DIMACS special focus model. It's more, but it is multidisciplinary and multi-institutional. So Cicada has 17 academic and industrial partners. And just to get a grab bag of some of the things that Cicada has worked on, we've worked closely with the Coast Guard on algorithms for efficient use of boats and aircraft. Those are basically large mixed integer programming problems. Those of us who love sports have had a big kick out of getting to see the back of a stadium, the inside of a stadium, and what it is to keep it safe and secure. We've been to NFL games. There are probably 40 different government agencies that are behind the scenes keeping people safe. And some of the best practices for stadium security that we've developed in collaboration with Major League Baseball and football, NBA, et cetera, have been used widely, and were even used to design the new arena in Detroit. We've also worked on human trafficking. I should really reword that. Preventing human trafficking. We've also worked on oil spills in the Arctic, voice forensics to catch hoax callers. We kind of pioneered in the subject of cybersecurity in the maritime domain. I ran the first conference on that topic and edited the first book on that topic, and so on and so forth. So Cicada does both development of fundamental tools and runs education and workforce programs, as well as the applied research. Current Cicada projects include working with the TSA on background checks with a tool that hopefully will make things faster and more efficient for them to check when somebody applies to work at an airport. We worked on cyber forensics and what are the paths now for training people to get into cyber forensics. We're interested in drones. We've actually helped do some testing of new drone defense systems, and we've run a workshop on drones, drone defense, and how they're used and can be used in various applications, from PSE&G, public service electric and gas, to law enforcement. So a lot of folks that involved with DIMACS think that this model, in addition to the special focus model, is one that we should pursue further with other topics. And if there are other topics where we would get research groups together, we'd welcome ideas. So the big new thing that we're starting is a tripod center. We just got an NSF grant for a tripods institute. We call it Data Inspire. It's the Institute on Data Science for Intelligent Systems and People Interaction. The tripods program basically argues that in order for data science to develop, you need to understand the theoretical foundations. And to do that, you need partnerships among mathematicians, computer scientists, and statisticians. That does sound a lot like DIMACS. We applied in the second round of the tripods program, also applied in the first round, didn't get it. There are a number of tripods institutes with different themes around the country, including one at Columbia, one at Brown, one at MIT, and so on. And part of the idea of the tripods, which we're just starting, is that there should be communication and collaboration among the different tripods institutes. So again, sounds like the kind of thing that DIMACS likes to do. We have 3 research groups that will be part of this, but we'll also run a workshop every year. We'll run a boot camp for students. We'll have a regular seminar series, and part of the idea here is is outreach to industry, so we can see whether the types of topics that we're talking about are of interest to industry partners. And as I said, interaction with other tripods institutes. So basically, here the themes include formal tools for figuring out what went wrong if an autonomous vehicle ends up in an accident or a robotic surgery goes haywire. Ways of reducing machine learning methods' dependence on large amounts of supervision, and ways of making decisions more effectively when you have critical deadlines, as you often do with intelligent machines. So those are some of the things we're going to be looking at. And those kind of fit some of the new directions that the DIMACS leadership came up with when we had our retreat a year ago. And those include getting more into data science, getting more into AI and machine learning, getting more into the future of work when people and machines are going to collaborate, looking at ethics and algorithms, but also some of the more standard things like cybersecurity and what we've been doing with mathematics of planet Earth, namely looking at, increasingly looking at resilience of different kinds of systems. So how can you get involved? I think I've given you enough of that. Here is a checklist, which I'm not going to bore you with again. Just let me end by saying that DIMACS is turning 30, or it has turned 30 this year. We're going to have a big conference in November 21, 22, at Rutgers. This will celebrate the past by having very distinguished speakers covering many of the main themes that DIMACS has been involved in. But it will also look to the future. What are some of the future challenges in discrete mathematics? Future challenges in theoretical computer science? Future areas of application where the DIMACS type activities might be relevant? We'll also have educational emphasis. We'll have a panel on education. We'll have something on broadening participation in STEM. And we'll have a nice panel where we've invited a lot of present and future center directors to talk about what it means to be a center in this age where collaboration is easier and faster, and where maybe we don't need as many workshops because we can do things over the internet, and where science is now an international activity, much more so than it was when we started DIMACS. So everyone is welcome to attend. We just ask you to register so we can get a count, and Tammy won't have kittens because she's trying to control how many people we can accommodate. So we've got a limit of 120 with the facility we have. So, and we're up to what, about 100? So be forewarned if you want to come. It should be a great event. Okay, well, I think I've said enough. Let me turn this over to Dave, and with the preamble that, as most of you know by now, he's going to be the next director of DIMACS, and it's just a great, great pleasure for me to say, not just personally, that we found a real winner, somebody who really cares about DIMACS, somebody whose interests overlap greatly, and somebody who has a history, and so should be with us and should be able to step right in, and already in some sense has. So, Dave, welcome as the DIMACS director to be, and thanks for hosting this.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Fred. And thanks, everyone, for attending this. Thanks for that great introduction of what DIMACS is. And I'll try to go quickly. What I want to do is say a little bit about what MSR-NYC is and what some of the parallels I see between the two organizations and where I see that we have common interests and we may work together. Microsoft Research, simply put, the mission of Microsoft Research is first to do great research, to do great basic research and publish it, to advance the state of the art, and secondly, to do great applied research and quickly transfer that into Microsoft products and ensure the future of Microsoft, the company. This lab, the New York lab, has 5 main areas that we have been working on. We have a fantastic group in machine learning, both in theory and applied, and getting into our products at Microsoft. We have a computational social science group, economics and computation group looking at the digital economy, a group in computer systems, and group that has grown organically in thinking about, and the acronym they use is FATE, Fairness, Accountability, Transparency, and Ethics in algorithms and data and machine learning. This is my paraphrasing of DIMACS philosophy, and I've highlighted some of the words and phrases that I see really match with the approach and philosophy at Microsoft Research New York. So for example, both organizations really are interdisciplinary to their core, and it's not just lip service. I think both organizations really believe that progress will happen at the intersection of interdisciplinary boundaries. And yes, we have 5 areas in this lab, but there's a lot of overlap in thought and also in people. There's at least some people who could easily be in 3 of those 5 areas. Second, DIMACS, as Fred mentioned, has a lot of partners, including academic partners and also corporate partners, including Microsoft. Microsoft is one of the partners of DIMACS. And DIMACS really takes that seriously. So on every council call, we have people calling in from IBM, from Microsoft, from Bell Labs, and they really participate in the thinking and planning of DIMACS. And it's an important part of what DIMACS does. Third, both organizations, I think at their core, really are thinking about quantitative methods, using math, statistics, potentially data-driven, computer science. And I think that's how you can have an interdisciplinary group, because many of the people can speak a common language of math. And lastly, let me also say one thing that's not directly represented at DIMACS is the kind of applied getting research into products. But to me, a place where that happens in a sense is in the implementation challenges that Fred mentioned. And this started early on at DIMACS. And in many cases, those challenges or competitions drive research in algorithms. And I think that's also happening in machine learning, where a lot of the progress in machine learning is happening because of the existence of data sets like facial recognition, et cetera, and the competitions that happen around that data. And lastly, as Fred mentioned, a big part of DIMACS is the educational component. And here at MSR, I know many of the people here are teaching at local universities, are teaching in the summer school, are teaching for even, say, a machine learning course for Microsoft employees, et cetera, and care a lot about teaching. I'll mention just some of the items I think that would be of interest to both sides. Fred already mentioned the new special focus, and it has been funded by NSF, and I'm very thrilled. It's my first time winning an NSF award as a PI, as a co-PI. And so that will happen in the next few years. We'll be running a series of 5 workshops as part of this special focus on topics that I think a lot of you are related to and interested in. If you want to get involved, let me know. If you want to come participate, if you want to come and get involved in an organizational level, let me know. Eliciting complex information, algorithmic social choice, eliciting beyond labels from the crowd, preference aggregation, and learning from partially reliable data. And Fred also mentioned the Tripods Institute, which I'm really excited about. It's been funded from NSF under one of NSF's 10 big ideas, the Harnessing the Data Revolution big idea. That's what these tripod centers are funded under, and the one at Rutgers looks really exciting. And I think has a lot in common with people here at MSR. Another interesting parallel are the summer schools. So Fred mentioned the research experience for undergrads summer school that's been happening for many years at Rutgers, one of the first. And that brings people from all over the country, undergrads from all over the country and from the Czech Republic as a partner school. And they learn, they do research, and potentially many of them go on to grad school. Well, a parallel thing happens here, and Jake runs that, and Dan as well, and many of you have taught in that summer school. That is kind of a labor of love. One of my favorite things that MSR New York does, that data science summer school, 8 weeks, where undergrads, again, come here, learn about data science, get involved in research, and many of them go on to graduate school. And Fred also mentioned one thing I'm very proud of at DIMACS, and is the living learning community that Rebecca Wright began. She was the previous director of DIMACS. This opportunity for women who are interested in majoring in computer science, living in the same community, taking a house course, supporting each other as they major in computer science. And as Fred mentioned, that's become something even bigger at Rutgers, initiative for women in computing. I mentioned another connection. The group here on fairness, accountability, transparency, and ethics. It's been fantastic to see that grow. I mean, when the lab founded, we didn't have that area, but that has really just grown organically from interests of people in the lab, and now we've started hiring in that area. And now if you combine New York, Boston, and Montreal, we really, I feel like, are the leaders of the field. And at Rutgers and DIMACS, it's an area we really want to emphasize and grow into and learn a lot more about. We would like to propose a special focus in that area on algorithms in society. And as Fred mentioned, Rutgers is really committed to getting that into the curriculum of the early data science and machine learning courses, and are applying for funding for that. But even with or without the funding, that is going to happen in the curriculum at Rutgers. And finally, there's a ton of efforts happening in optimization, which I think many of you would be interested in. Tammy Carpenter is leading those efforts. Her PhD is in optimization, one of which is a collaboration with the Simons Institute on bridging continuous and discrete optimization. One is happening next week, a workshop on randomized numerical linear algebra. And in fact, there's already 4 people from MSR signed up for that event happening next week. Then coming up in October, there's a workshop on mixed integer programming. And then in May, there's another event happening on mixed integer programming and a Daniversary. That's Dan Beanstalk, who's one of the prominent figures in that field. And Fred mentioned the implementation challenge in honor of David Johnson, who started the first implementation challenges at DIMACS. And then coming up, there's more events that are still in planning, including in March 2021, there's going to be a Frontiers of Optimization Research Conference. This is meant to be a kind of computer science style archival conference in optimization. And finally, but to me, there's a lot of common overlap of interests of areas for sure. But for me, the biggest common thread is just fantastic people in both places. And I'll just say, to me, Microsoft Research New York really is the best place in the world to do research. There's no better place to be productive and get research done than right here. And in part, that's just because of the people here. There's just incredible, amazing people who are very, very smart and diligent and hardworking and tireless, but also who are very nice. And when I first was thinking about this position at Rutgers and at DIMACS, one of the things that put me over the edge is really recognizing the same kind of traits in people there. Very, very smart people, very effective and productive people, but also very nice people and kind. That's what I wanted to say about connections between MSR New York and DIMACS.